14 months before the actual moon landing, Neil Armstrong was practicing landing the lunar module on Earth, but the experiment went terribly wrong. Armstrong failed to land the prototype and was forced to eject himself only in the last 2 seconds, saving his life. After Apollo 11 successfully landed on the moon on July 20th, 1969, conspiracy theorists questioned how Armstrong could land on the moon when he couldn't control the prototype on Earth. Welcome to another video.
Small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
It's been 55 years since Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon, yet many still believe it was a hoax orchestrated by NASA and the US government. The arguments presented by conspiracy theorists often sound convincing enough to make the average person question whether the US lied about the moon landing or filmed it in a remote desert. This theory resurfaces every few years. In 2002, Bart Sibrel, a skeptic who believed the moon landing was fake, confronted Apollo 11 astronaut Edwin "Buzz" Aldrin with provocative questions. Aldrin, enraged, punched Sibrel in the face, which reignited theories that Aldrin's reaction was a sign of guilt. This was the point when the theories against the moon landings started to circulate once again. People said that the second man to set foot on the moon, Buzz Aldrin, was probably enraged by the conspiracy theories. But what is the truth? Was the moon landing real, or was it a secret plan to outshine the Soviet Union during the Cold War? At the beginning of the space race, the Soviets were the first to launch a satellite and even sent an unmanned spacecraft to touch the moon a decade before Apollo 11. So why could they never send a human to the moon, while NASA managed to do it 6 times? Let's delve into these theories one by one. The first doubt in people's minds revolves around the camera used to capture photos on the moon. Marcus Allen, a photographer, questions how astronauts could operate such a complicated camera while wearing pressurized spacesuits. A spacesuit is no ordinary suit. It is fully pressurized, which means the suits are filled with air, making precise movements of hands and fingers nearly impossible. Ralph Rennie, a conspiracy theorist, demonstrated this by wearing astronaut gloves and inserting his hand into a vacuum chamber. He found it nearly impossible to move his fingers freely, let alone press a camera trigger or adjust its focus. So how were such sharp and perfect photos captured on the moon? Aerospace engineer Jay Widner explains that the camera used was the Hasselblad 500 EL, specially modified for lunar missions. It was designed to slide and attach to the astronauts' suits, so they didn't need to hold it. The camera's shutter button was enlarged, and the focus ring was modified so even stiff gloves could operate them. Astronauts had extensively practiced using this equipment on Earth before capturing those iconic moon photos. Another theory centers around the shadows in the moon photos. The former head of American Rocketdyne claims that the shadows prove we never went to the moon because they are not parallel, which should be the case if the only light source was the sun. For this reason, many people believe these photos were taken in a studio with artificial light sources, because the closer the light source, the more the shadows will diverge, as seen in this photo. However, experts explain that on Earth, shadows are not always parallel either, especially if the surface is uneven, objects are not parallel, or the photo is taken with a wide-angle lens. One more theory questions why Buzz Aldrin appears illuminated in a photo where he's descending the lunar lander's ladder, despite the lander's side being in shadow. Despite the absence of an atmosphere on the moon that would scatter sunlight, the light hitting the moon's surface reflects and bounces back. Just as on a full moon night, the Earth is illuminated. Similarly, the backlight seen on Aldrin in this photo is reflected from the moon's surface. When it comes to lighting, even the light passing through the American flag is viewed with suspicion. Questions also arise about the American flag seen in the moon photos. Why does the flag appear perfectly lit on both sides? And why does it seem to be waving when there's no wind on the moon? The flag was made of nylon, which allows light to pass through, and the motion seen was due to the astronauts struggling to plant it in the low-gravity environment of the moon. It was also designed with rods along its top edge to prevent it from sagging. Another point of contention raised by conspiracy theorist and author Ralph Rennie concerns the moon landing. He questioned why, if a blower on Earth can easily displace dust and small rocks, creating a small crater, the Apollo 11 lander did not make even a small crater beneath it. The blower, although much less powerful than the lander's thrusters, can displace dust and rocks effectively. Ideally, the dust kicked up by the moon's surface should have covered the landing gear. However, there is hardly any dust visible on them. Physicists explain that the lander's rocket motors were shut off a few feet before landing, reducing the thrust by 75% by the time it touched the moon's surface. This is why no significant crater was formed. While the thrust did displace some dust, it was not enough to cover the landing gear completely. Even with the thrust reduced to 25%, it would still be around 1,250 kilograms. On Earth, this amount of thrust would undoubtedly create a significant crater. So why didn't it do so on the moon? This phenomenon remains difficult to fully explain. Another question frequently raised by conspiracy theorists is why the sky in the photos taken on the moon appears completely black, similar to the night sky on Earth, but with no stars visible. A camera lens functions similarly to the human eye. Our pupils dilate in darkness to let in more light and contract in bright light. If you've ever gone stargazing, you might have noticed that the area around you is kept completely dark to allow your pupils to expand, letting even the faintest starlight reach your eyes. However, if a light is turned on, the stars become invisible. The same principle applied during the Apollo 11 mission when photos were taken on the moon. The moon's surface was brightly lit by sunlight, preventing the camera from capturing the stars because the intense light entering the lens overwhelmed the faint light from the stars. Although sunlight illuminated the moon, the sky appeared black because the moon has no atmosphere. On Earth, our atmosphere scatters sunlight, making the sky look blue during the day, but behind the atmosphere, the sky is actually black. What do you think? Did the US really send humans to the moon, or was it all an elaborate hoax? If you have any questions, let me know in the comments section, and don't forget to like and share this video. See you in the next great video.